Welcome. This is Introducing English for Driving, Wisconsin Literacy's new curriculum. And Wisconsin Literacy is a nonprofit literacy coalition that unites over 80 member agencies across the state to strengthen the power of learning in every community through collaboration, professional development, health, digital, and workforce literacy programs, and advocacy. We expand opportunities to build a more equitable, literate Wisconsin. We want to thank you for joining us today. We know we've had a full day of professional development. This is our fourth session today, so thank you so much. And I want to thank our sponsors as well. Let me advance the slide. So like I said, this is Introducing English for Driving. This is Wisconsin Literacy's new curriculum. I am Jamie Copes. I'm manager of tutor training and digital literacy at Wisconsin Literacy. And Rose, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey everyone, my name is Rose. I'm the Refugee Services Program Manager at Wisconsin Literacy.
Because we're so late in the day and it has been such a full day, we thought we'd have just a little bit of fun getting started, and we wanted to invite you to, in the chat, put a driving skill or concept that maybe you could use a little review on. Or if you don't want to talk about yourself, maybe other drivers. What's a driving skill or concept other drivers could use a little review on?
Mary Kay said roundabouts. Tyler said blinkers. Another roundabouts.
Yes.
Parallel parking.
And as those are coming in, just a few housekeeping things as well. The session is going to be, it is recorded, and it will be available on our website probably by the end of next week, if not earlier. I'm going to ask everyone to mute themselves and remain muted. This can reduce some background noise for everyone. And if you do have questions, please feel free to use the chat, and Rose and I will address those as they come up. All right, here is our agenda for this session. I am going to start with a poll. Rose and I would just kind of like to know who is in the room with us and why you came. Then we're going to share some background information about how we noticed the need for this curriculum and how we developed it. We will do a demo where ideally it's going to be hands-on. It's going to be a digital version of one of the modules in the curriculum, and we'll go through how a student would experience that module. And then probably everybody's burning question, how to access the curriculum. We'll go over that and share a real life example of somebody who has tested out the curriculum. All right, I need to check the chat because I'm interested to hear what people are saying. 3-point turns.
Mhm.
Right away. Following distance. All great skills that we could use some review on. Okay, so let me launch this poll. It is 3 questions, so you may need to scroll to see all of them.
Looks like the majority are working with beginning level learners.
Yeah, I'm going to close the poll in about 10 more seconds, and then we'll share these results with everyone. Okay. Sorry if I interrupted your progress here, but here's the results. So like Rose said, majority of us are working with beginning level learners. The next highest would be multi-level class. Some are already using driver's ed resources, but the majority said no. And we have mostly in person, and it looks like one shared that they teach virtually. All right, thank you so much.
All right. So we wanted to give you all a little bit of background on how this project came to be. So over the last few years, we started hearing about a need for resources for immigrants and refugees who wanted to get their license, but maybe didn't have the language skills that they needed to do so, either to feel confident taking the written test or the actual driving test. We heard a lot about these at different convenings, the Refugee and Immigrant Summit that we had in 2024. It was a major topic of discussion there, as well as various refugee and immigrant provider meetings. So, as a small team at Wisconsin Literacy, Jamie, Anna, and I, we worked with a curriculum designer, WIDS, which is the Worldwide Instructional Design System, to develop the curriculum. And WIDS is actually a part of the Wisconsin Technical College System Foundation, so it was really great to work with them. The three of us worked on the project as the subject matter experts for teaching English, and we started about a year ago. So we're really excited that it is available to all of you now. Jimmy, you want to go to the next slide? Perfect. So, what is English for Driving? So, this description is taken directly from the book, so you'll be able to access it later if you want to. But English for Driving is designed to help learners practice the language that they need for driving. So very practical language that, would be used at a traffic stop, for example, language on signs, things that people would find while driving. And our content is based off of the Wisconsin Motorist Handbook. So this is like the handbook that you would find on the DMV website specifically for Wisconsin. And we did get permission from the DOT, from the Department of Transportation, to use some of their content in the materials. So, for example, we have actual practice test questions from the DOT incorporated into the workbooks, and we'll show you that later. Next slide. So, who is it for? So we created the resource with the understanding that basic literacy and English are needed for driving. So it was really designed for learners at a high beginning level or higher. We do think it could be relevant and useful for other students as well. But for those who may be beginners or have emerging literacy, it may be necessary to modify the materials. And later on, we're going to talk about a program who use these materials with beginner level language learners and kind of how they modified things and what they did to make it work for them. All right, so next, we are going to actually show you both the student workbook and the teaching plan. So Jamie is going to share the screen, and we're going to start by looking at the student workbook. But the curriculum does have a teaching plan and a student workbook. And in each of them, there are 12 modules. You can see here in the table of contents. And each of these modules, like I said before, correspond to one of the chapters or to a chapter in the Wisconsin Motorist Handbook that's on the DMV website. So if you scroll down, there is an image at the start of each module. And so that image is representative of what that module is going to be about. So you can use it with students to talk about, vocabulary, what they think the chapter is going to be about, practicing some of those words. And then after the image, there's also a story at the beginning of each module. And the story is about Eunice and Ahmad. It really follows these two brothers throughout the entire book. And Eunice is on his way to take his driving test. So that's how it starts in Module 1. And then in Module 12, you have Eunice actually arriving at the DMV to take his driving test. And then after each story, there are a few comprehension questions in every module as well.
I was just going to say, spoiler alert, he does get his driver's license.
Yes, yes. We want to share a successful example for sure. And then questions from the handbook are incorporated into each chapter, and those are at the end of each module in the student workbook. So in some modules, there's one question, in some there are, two or three. But these are a really great way for students to practice. They might sometimes be a little bit more advanced than the rest of the module, but they're likely questions that they'll actually see on the written test. So even if they're a little harder, it's definitely a good review. All right, so next we'll take a look at the teaching plan. Okay. So the teaching plan has about 10 activities in each module. Some modules have a few more, some a few less. So Jamie, if you want to scroll down, perfect. So as you can see, on the left, we have the student learning activity. And then on the right, there's the teaching notes, so an explanation of how you can use this activity with students in the classroom. There's also a materials section, and sometimes the materials correspond to activities in the student workbook. So, for example, for this first student learning activity, one of the materials is that introducing Eunice and Ahmad, their story. About half of the activities in the teaching plan have corresponding activities in the student workbook. And so there are more activities in the teaching plan. And so it's definitely important to have both if you want to get all that you can out of the curriculum. Assessments are also in the teaching plan. They're at the end of each module. I think this one, module one, has a lot of activities. It might be like number 12. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, at the end of each module, there will be an assessment activity with teaching notes as well. And then another great resource in the teaching plan is the manipulatives. So they start on page 183. Perfect. And if you scroll down, there's this manipulatives reference chart. So, for example, stop signs. So there's going to be a manipulative of a stop sign that can be cut out and used. Stop signs are used as a material in module 2, 3, and 5. So you can see here we have stop signs, yield signs. Jamie, if you want to scroll, you can get an example. There are large and small ones that can be used for various different types of activities. And these are in the teaching plan. So, you can cut them out, make copies, maybe laminate them, however you think is best. And then in the teaching plan, there's also a description of how they can be used within the learning activity. And then just a note that completing this activity or completing this whole curriculum does not satisfy any driver's ed requirement. The purpose is really for individuals to learn the English and to practice the English needed for driving, but it's not related to passing driver's ed, for example. All right. Any questions after seeing this? Anything you want us to scroll back to?
I did see a question asking for the link to the resource, and we are getting to that. We will explain how to access the curriculum.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right, so we would like to take you through a demo of some of the student workbook activities in Module 2. I created a digital whiteboard as a way to give you access specifically to this module. And I'm using a tool called Jotboard. So I just want to kind of help you navigate this tool before we go through the demo. So when you join the whiteboard, you will see up at the top that it has 9 slides in it. So to advance to the slides, you just will click on this arrow here to go to the next one, next, next. And so that's how you advance or go back on pages. Then it is an interactive whiteboard, so you'll have a toolbar on the left. You'll have an opportunity to use the pen tool. So you can click on the pen. You can double click on the pen to change the width or change the color of your ink. This is an eraser. This brings you back to your mouse or your select tool. This will be a useful tool. This is a sticky note. So when you click on sticky note, you can type in it and then you click save. And then you actually have to hit close in order to be able to see it. So when you close, there's your sticky note and then you can drag it around. The only other item that might be helpful is if instead of a sticky note, if you'd like to type in a text box, you click on this T and then you place it anywhere on the screen and you can also type. You have to click out of it in order to be able to move the text box. All right, so the idea is for you to experience this, and because we're all virtual, this is a digital version of it. So here are a couple of options for how you can experience this. The first one is probably my preferred option. So I'm going to share a link with you, and it's going to ask you to create your own Jotboard account. It's free, you just need to use your email. This will allow you to make a copy of the whiteboard and follow along in your own personal copy. A second option is you can join my Jotboard. So there'll be multiple people in the board writing at the same time. Because I have a free version of Jotboard, Jotboard only lets 4 people collaborate with me. So you have to be quick if this is the option you want. The first 4 people to do that can join my whiteboard. If none of these options seem great for you today and you just want to watch your screen and follow along with my Jotboard, you have the option to do that as well. If you're going to create the free Jotboard account, actually, if you're going to do either of these 2 first options, when you click on the link, you will get a box that says this. So sign in to make a copy of this board. If you want to join my Jotboard, hit cancel. And if you're one of the first 4, you'll be successful at that. If you're going to create your own Jotboard account, you're going to click sign in, and then you'll have a box that looks like this. If you have a Gmail account, you can quickly click sign in with Google, and then it'll open that Jotboard. Otherwise, you can click get started for free and enter your email. Okay. So with all of that, I'm going to grab the link here to share with you. I'm going to put it in the chat and then give everybody a few minutes to access. Let me know if you're having any issues or if you have questions about accessing this whiteboard. We hit our limit, but then it keeps going down. So I think people are figuring out how to make their own copy, or they're just watching my screen today, which is fine as well. Okay, so the idea with the first page of a module is it always starts with a picture. Maybe I'll wait just a second. Always starts with a picture. And this is an opportunity for you as an instructor, as a tutor, to build or to access students' prior knowledge and to elicit some of the vocabulary that will be important for the module. So if you are in a whiteboard and you'd like to participate, I invite you to select the sticky note tool and answer this question here. What do you see in this picture? Okay, so we're trying to elicit vocabulary, that would be important. Or what do you think Module 2 will be about? If you are following along and you're just watching on your screen and you want to interact in the chat, you can answer those questions in the chat as well. All right, so I see, and somebody in the chat said driving around people or walkers. All right, somebody that joined my board was able to get a sticky note on there. Great, understanding when to stop. Crosswalk attention, and the word crosswalk is going to be a really important vocabulary word. What word do you think is going to come up for this idea of people or walkers? I see it in the chat, school zone. That reminds me, that was the one sign that I failed on. Like I didn't get the right answer when I took my written test. And I will never forget it. Pedestrians, there we go. Yes, thank you. All right, so that's a way that you can use the image at the beginning of each module as a pre-reading exercise, as a vocabulary exercise. Then, if you're with me or if you're in your own whiteboard, let's advance to slide 2. And here you get the story of Yunus and Ahmad for Module 2. So I'll just read it out loud to you quickly, especially if you work with beginning learners. This might be a great opportunity for you to read aloud and for it to become a listening activity. So Yunus is driving to the DMV with his brother Ahmad. Yunus turns left. The speed limit sign says 25 miles per hour. He must not drive too fast. He sees a stop sign. He must slow down to stop. He puts his foot on the brake pedal. A pedestrian is standing next to the stop sign. Yunus must wait for the pedestrian to cross the street. After the pedestrian crosses the street, Yunus presses the gas pedal with his foot and goes straight ahead. Want to point out here that the new vocabulary for each module is bolded in each of these stories. This image of the brake pedal and the gas pedal is review at this point in Module 2, and so this is an image I grabbed from Module 1 just to add to this story. Each story ends with some comprehension questions, so I'm going to invite you, if you're in a whiteboard, to grab the pen tool, double-click again to choose your pen width or color if you'd like, and then once you have the pen, I'd like you to circle the answer to this question, if you can find it in the text. How fast can Yunus drive? If you're just watching and you want to put the answer in the chat, please do that. How fast can Yunus drive? Yeah, there we go. So I see it in the chat. I'll grab a pen tool, maybe. There it goes. 25 miles per hour. All right, what pedal must Yunus use to stop? The brake pedal. And what pedal must Yunus use to drive? Awesome. Gas pedal. There we go. So some modules will have more than 3 comprehension questions. Module 2 has 3. If you're with me in a whiteboard, let's advance to slide 3. In the student workbook, this is the next activity. It's the traffic signal activity. So in a module that talks about stopping and going, it's important that we understand the words for colors and what each of the traffic light colors means, and then where they go. So we've got green here. I'm going to grab my select tool so that I can move it. Red and yellow. If you'll recall when I showed the example of the teacher plan, there are manipulatives at the end. This is one of the manipulatives that you get. So you would have a full-size sheet page of this traffic light with these cutouts. If you are in a whiteboard and you want to test your memory, where does the green light go? Where does the red light go? Where does the yellow light go? Yeah, thanks for the assist in the chat. Sometimes I forget or I doubt myself. Green is on the bottom. Red is on the top. Yellow is in the middle. Okay. This is universal, I learned. Oh, and most importantly for people who are colorblind and can't tell the difference between red and green. Okay, if you're with me in a whiteboard, you can advance to the next activity, which you will also find in the student workbook. This is an activity that starts with these driving conditions at the top. So this is the view of the driver. We're driving on a road and the speed limit is 55. So it's important to coach learners to notice these details in the image. And then we have to decide with each change in driving situation, should we speed up or slow down? If you're in a whiteboard and you want to use the pen tool, you can circle your answer. And the next, I think, 5 slides are just questions for this activity. So for example, in this first one, we see now it's the same speed limit, but now we have snow. So ideally, you want to select slow down. Zoom is not letting me have chat open and a pen tool open and do all of these things at the same time, but you should circle slow down. Next one, you can see the speed limit has changed. So again, we want to slow down. Question 3, new situation. What has changed? Speed limit. So now we can actually speed up. Question 4. Here's that school sign. So again, we get a chance to interpret some signs, and we're going to need to slow down. Question 5. The important thing here that you want to draw attention to is it looks like we're getting off the highway, and on an exit ramp, we want to slow down. And last question, last slide on this whiteboard. Not a lot of change. We're missing the speed limit sign, so we don't get any indication, and we see houses. So we know that we're in a neighborhood or residential area. We want to slow down. Okay, if you enjoyed the whiteboard version, I am going to share just this bonus resource with you in the chat. This one is for Module 4. I just had so much fun making these that I made one for Module 4. Module 4 is about parking, as you might be able to tell from this image here. So the story is in there, but Then you also get this third slide with some manipulatives for parallel parking. So in Module 4, there's a step-by-step sequence of how to parallel park. If you wanted to use this with a student and that language, you can move this car, use this to sort of swivel it, put it into position. On the right-hand side, you have the shifting gears, so you can practice that too, putting it in drive, putting it in park, putting it in reverse. So now you have that bonus resource. Are there any questions about what you just experienced or how you would use it with a student? Did I miss anything, Rose, in the chat?
Nope, we got some more links in there, but I think we're all caught up in the chat. Mary Kay said, is Jotboard easy to use? I used it for the first time today and I thought it was pretty easy to use. Jamie, what did you think in terms of like creating the activities?
I think it's really easy to use. I don't know if anybody used Google's Jamboard before they took that away, but it is the most comparable to Jamboard that I've found. And even with a free account, um, I can't have more than 5 or 4 students in it at the same time, as you see, but I have not run out of, it hasn't told me that I should stop making jot boards. So I really enjoy it as a tool. Thank you for asking.
All right, well, next we're going to show you how to access the curriculum on our website. And so Jamie is going to start by going to the Wisconsin Literacy website. And then on the top right, you've got that hamburger symbol. If you click that and you go to resources, click on resources, scroll down to literacy program resources, click that, and then scroll down to English for Driving and click on that. That's going to bring you to our English for Driving curriculum page. And if you scroll down, it'll give you a little background about the curriculum. And then there is a sample of the Module 1 student workbook and teaching plan. All right, then if you continue scrolling down, you can view the 12 student workbook modules online. So if you click View Online, you have all 12 modules of the student workbooks. So if you keep scrolling, you'll see all 12 are there. And then you also have module 1 of the teaching plan. And then if you go back to that first screen, you can also order printed English for Driving books. So you've got the pricing there for the student workbooks and the teaching plans for members and non-members. And if you're interested in ordering any physical copies, you can send an email to products@wisconsinliteracy.org, and we'll give you a quote that includes shipping or delivery costs. And depending on where you're located, we may be able to just bring them to you, an RLC that's located near to you so that you don't have to pay for shipping. And so that is how you can access the digital and printed materials. And Jamie also put the link in the chat. But does anyone have any questions on how to access these materials? Okay, perfect. Well, if you're looking in a couple weeks and you have any questions, please let us know. We're happy to help guide you. Is there a job board already made for each module? No, not right now, but it is a really great resource. So maybe that's something we should look into.
Ooh, that gives me a great idea. I have a monthly series called Digital Tools for Teaching. Maybe we can have a build your own modules with Jotboard for
I
one
like
month.
it. I like that. So, all right. So next we wanted to share a member experience with you. Jamie, if you want to go to the next slide. Perfect. So Keith gave us permission to share his experience. So Keith is a volunteer at the Sheboygan Literacy Council in Sheboygan. And this fall and winter, he used this curriculum with a group of students. He did a 14-week course. They met an hour and a half each week. And the students were Rohingya and they had emerging literacy, very beginning level learners. And he had some tips. One of the tips was to extend the course. So he said, since the learners, were beginner level, he really thought it would be helpful to give them more time. So either add a few weeks onto the course or ideally meet for more hours per week. He also talked about the importance of connecting with his students and learning about their experience. He said that some of the students told him that they had never seen a stoplight before coming to the US. And so having that context and understanding that about his students was really helpful in how he taught the course. He also recommended making things visual. So, for example, going out to the car to demonstrate blind spots, using a lot of manipulatives, showing a lot of images and pictures was really helpful for him. And then a lot of review, repetition, and assessment. He assessed very often, multiple times every class, and learned that a lot of times he had to reteach or review and teach in different ways. But overall, he said it was very successful, and they're looking forward to using it with other groups of students as well.
Rose, did we want to invite people in the audience to share, any tips that they have for their experience already teaching driving
Yeah.
concepts?
Yeah, absolutely. Any tips you have, whether it's with using these materials or other materials, um, tips you found.
Because we did take that poll and we know that some of you are already teaching
Mhm.
these concepts. You could also take a few minutes to look at the digital versions of this curriculum and then just
Mhm.
make some observations. Is there anything that you feel like you would have to um, adapt for students at the level that you teach?
I think what has been successful, at least here in Wisconsin, would be like um, just really connecting that driving experience with what it is to drive in Wisconsin. And what I mean about that is like things like deer, um, even how we talk about hitting a patch of ice, or even the concept of black ice has has a whole different level of understanding of weather conditions that impact driving. And even if we think about like traction and why there's jokes about people carrying kitty litter in the back seat, right? Like why we have that and why we have shovels in our car versus perhaps someone who is living in a state where that's not really an issue. So I think that climate and these I would say like intersection between nature, climate, and driving, I think it's just an important aspect, at least here in Wisconsin.
Mhm.
Really good points. Thank you. I used to
Yeah.
drive with pizza boxes in my back seat for traction. You just slide them right under the tires.
Yeah, and I love the idea of like, there is a weather section, a weather module, but adding in the idea, the point about having a shovel and different things in your car for safety in the winter, for even bringing some of those items into the classroom.
Tyler says in the chat, going outside our location and taking a walk around the block helped a lot with my groups. We were able to see left turns, rolling stops, and the use of turn signals. All right. If you have other comments or questions, please feel free to share them now in the chat. If you think of questions later and you'd like to contact us, my email is here. Rose's email is here. You can also contact this email here, products@Wisconsin Literacy, to provide feedback or to review future curricula from Wisconsin Literacy. And don't forget, this is also the email address that you would use to get a quote for printed copies of the student workbook and the teacher plans.
Great. Thank you all so much for attending this session on a Tuesday afternoon. It was great to see all you. The next session is tomorrow morning. It's called Beyond the Hype, Strategic AI Use for Adult Literacy. It begins at 9:30. And please complete the survey as you leave. When you exit Zoom, you'll see a message pop up. Click continue, and you'll be taken directly to the survey. Thank you all, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Thank you, everyone.
Before we hop off, somebody had a quick question about catering to all levels. We did write it for a high beginning or higher level. And so the answer to that question is no, but as they mentioned earlier in the call today, some programs have successfully adapted it for lower levels, but we created it with the assumption that you do need a base of literacy and English skills in order to safely drive.
Thank you, Anna. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon. We'll see you tomorrow.
Everyone.